To kick off panel 2 with a question to you first. Can you quickly define for us the difference between corporate social responsibility and corporate social value, and why corporate social value is gaining traction at?
Thank you, Yvonne. It was really interesting also to listen to the first panel, and I hope some of the things will resonate. I wanted just to say that the concept of corporate social responsibility can be actually traced to as far as 1800s. And it began its evolution, moving through various stages. And I really like Professor Wayne Visser's book, Sustainable Frontiers. And there he identified 4 most common stages of CSR. The defensive CSR, where all CSR initiatives are undertaken only if and when it can be shown that shareholder value is protected as a result. And activities within that group include volunteering of employees, which improves motivation, commitment to productivity, and also targeted expenditure, for example, for initiatives like pollution control, that then helps to fend off regulation and avoid fines. The second one is charitable CSR, where a company supports various charitable initiatives, donations, and sponsorships, often offered to by a company as referred by a company as giving back to society. The third one is promotional CSR, whereby CSR activities are seen mainly as PR opportunity to enhance brand's image and reputation of the company. And the fourth one is strategic CSR, and that relates to CSR activities to the company's core business, whereby through adherence to codes and social and environmental management systems, and company makes its strategic preference. Now, companies tend to move through these different stages, and these are helpful. All of those activities are helpful to improve a lot of things. But being peripheral, they are actually not effective at turning the tide on environmental, social, and ethical issues that we're facing today. And if we are serious about reversing the misery of poverty, reversing the 6th mass extinction of species, ecosystem degradation, and climate change, it requires transformative change in a way we operate, the way we do things. And looking at what the purpose of organizations is, historically they exist to create value. And for the last half century, global economy was shaped by the idea that corporations only responsible for increasing shareholder value. And there are some companies and business leaders that are calling for a return of stakeholder capitalism. I think that was mentioned in a previous panel. And this fundamentally means creating value for all stakeholders through your business. So it means creating social value involves creating economic value in a way that also creates value for society by addressing its needs and challenges, connecting business success with social and environmental progress. Now, I believe that this approach is on par with the transformation that we need.
Almost forgot to unmute myself there. Thank you so much, Anna, for that overview and the distinction between CSR and the difference of CSV and what it brings to a corporation. Coming to you now, Mr. Liang, the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit. That is key to shaping corporate values. But how is this corporate social value, when you shift to that, how does that affect the PPP of UOL Group, Mr. Liang?
I think in all corporation, like what Shui has said, profitability is one aspect. Of course, we want to do good. We are moving from CSR to CSV. There is definitely, we have to look for a business need or business case. I like to cite 2 examples. We are a property developer with a hospitality arm, and we do show flats and we sell condominium. So we need artworks into our show flats and condominium as well. So definitely there's a business need. And I firmly believe that people with special needs are also very capable and able, especially in the artistic area. So indeed, that itself helped us to find a niche. So we tied up with VSA, very special art, and with that, we started to populate our show flat with artwork that we procure and give them from people with very special need, altruistic, maybe partially blind, maybe they all kinds of needs that they have, but they are capable of doing very good artwork. In fact, very extraordinary artwork indeed. So that in itself that puts us into a very simple area of so-called overcoming the tension of trying to say we give and it will cost us money, and that it creates a value in itself. And indeed, I must say, it is a tremendous eye-opener even for me as well. The other part is inclusive hiring. That's why Wei-Ling is championing it. That is where I say, wow, are we going to go to the next phase in which we're going to now not just provide a platform, we're going to hire people into our organization, get involved in HR, get buddy system, and make sure we can get the right people. Are we going to people who feel that they are burdensome and so on and so forth? But indeed, we found out that once we start to do that, they come with what Anna says, a very valuable pool of talent. Yeah, so we found out that it serves our business need as well. There's it gives us, and they are very good at what they are doing. And they don't move job to job, and indeed we are giving them not just them, the whole family a means of employment, and also reprieve even for the parents who have what do you call it, children with special needs. So I think that is wonderful for us, and to date we have also of course, we need the support. We got SG Enable as our partner to make sure that we can have them properly trained and then be put onto our organization. I must say that with all this initiative, it brings about another dimension altogether. Hospitality business is about caring and compassion. Doing all that brings a lot more value into that culture in itself. So maybe I can see that once we start to find needs that so-called align the tension of a need and cost and time burden, whatever, then all these become aligned. From CSR, you move to CSV.
Yeah, Mr. Liang, I can feel your excitement as you're sharing these examples, and you also said that it was an eye-opening experience for yourself. So hold that thought. I want to come back to you on that one. Right now, I just want to quickly move to Jacinta, the founder and director of Tea Ideas, because I know Tea Ideas is not just about tea with benefits, right? Jacinta, you've chosen to hire renal patients as well as the elderly. Tell us your rationale for that, and how have you enabled your company's movement towards CSV?
So for us, because Singapore is an increasing aging population, so we were thinking on how best to tap on this potential manpower. So the government also didn't want the seniors to stay at home, just watch Korean dramas, and that would develop kind of those chronic illnesses, dementia, high blood pressure, cholesterol, or the three highs as commonly known. So if we could offer them a lightweight kind of job, so at least we can engage them effectively and also contribute, allow them to contribute back to society in a more meaningful way. So we heard many unsuccessful stories on hiring seniors, and we noticed one trend whereby companies actually expect the elderly to fit into their job scope processes, but this kind of create mismatch. So we decided to re-engineer it. We created the job to fit them, to fit the elderly or the renal patient. So we look into very practical processes, really simple, like a water flask. As a business owner, I will buy the biggest, or the bigger the better, because it's very efficient when you are doing sampling for customers. But we realized there's one problem: it is too heavy for the seniors. So what do? We actually just change all the flasks to smaller ones so that they can handle it better. And we also have very simple things like small foldable stools for them to, sit down, take stocks instead of just bending over to take stock and sprain their back. We offer them very flexible working schedule so that they can still go for their JB durian trip, or a medical appointment, things like that. And very practical things like marketing materials. We print it in a bigger size. A3, font 16, standardize the pricing, things like that. So these are just some of the things that we do to accommodate our senior staff.
Thank you for sharing those examples, Jacinta. I think it's very, very thoughtful of you, right? Don't you think so, Elijah? I think as an employer, Jacinta's flexible hiring practice is very refreshing because you don't usually see employers changing the job description to fit the employee. It's rather, okay, you don't fit my job description, I'm going to look for somebody else. So what do you think of that, Elijah? And how can corporate social value then generate more growth and innovation opportunities?
Well, thank you for having me, Yvonne. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge Pamela and the team who pivoted from the hybrid to kind of the online program in a short span of a week, so really well done. I also applaud Jacinta's effort to directly address the issues of ageism through a hiring philosophy, IT ideas. There are definitely untapped potential in the senior workforce. And I think at the same time, I also like to reiterate the point that the disabled community is also underrepresented in the workforce. I mean, 1/10 of the global community have a disability, and their exclusion from the workforce not only prevents them from having meaningful engagement in the society, but also bring economic implication to our society. So as a Singaporean academic based in a US university, I'm very thankful to Mr. Leong from UOL and Ms. Wee from Pan Pacific Hotel Group, who are both very gracious and very courageous to collaborate on the research project with me. So the purpose of the project was to investigate the kind of the ripple effect of disability inclusion hiring on existing employees' attitudes and behaviors over time. So typically, when you think about research on disability inclusion, the focus is a lot on the company's effort to assimilate associated with disability into the workforce. That's very similar to what Jacinta had said earlier. But my thinking is that if you're interested to consider disability inclusion as a competitive advantage, then we'll need to clarify and show how this policy of inclusion affects the rest of the organization. So I designed an experimental study to test these efforts and really thankful for the support from the senior management that the process was painful. As in it takes a long time because we wanted to capture the effects over time. But overall, the results, I found that inclusive hiring policy itself is not sufficient. So the policy needs to be supported by a reflective activities to help all employees sense make the implication and the meaning of inclusion to their everyday work. So it's important to reframe disability not as a vulnerability, but as a testament of human adaptation and strength. So that is the pivot that needs to happen, because I think most of the time when I think about disability, it's about, oh, I feel sorry, I feel sympathy, let's do something for them. But if you think about what connects us all as humans, is our ability to adapt and the strength. And people with disability do that every single day. You know, so I think acknowledging that, reframing that really helps to have that kind of spillover effect. So employees, the findings are employees are motivated to practice compassion towards each other, even towards their able-bodied counterparts, which ultimately improve kind of organizational level outcomes.
Wow, I'm just absorbing what you just said, right? It's about reframing disability, not as a vulnerability, but as an opportunity to adapt. And that could be a company's competitive advantage. I really like that, Elijah. Thank you. Mr. Leong, coming back to you very quickly, because you said about, in the property development side of things and the hotel side of things, what are the challenges? It must be difficult trying to get partners, board members, employees on board. How do you ensure that there is actually a genuine internal transformation of the company? You said before that it was an eye-opening experience when you decided to feature art drawn by autistic people. Tell us a bit more about this whole process that you encountered. Okay, let me just have you unmute yourself. Thank you, Mr. Leong.
Okay. Everybody talks about top-down. I think that's understandable. To do any CSR or CSV initiative, you need to have a top leadership. But we need champion all the way down to down the road. And I like the part that Anna says that we have unconscious biasness. Yeah, we want to do good, but we deep inside we have some unconscious biasness. We think that, oh, that's not for me personally. At the top level, I myself have my unconscious biasness. No, but thankfully also we have championed all the way down people who believe in it. The humanity part that Eric was talking about, that people want to take it on themselves. Take an example. We have a COVID situation. We have our GM in Perth deciding to take in the homeless on the street onto the hotel rooms, and then I was always telling the team that if he had sent an email to me for approval, I probably wouldn't get it approved. No, I probably can't. It's a learning journey for me as well. So I think it's all on in it. It's a whole top-down approach. It is a case whereby you need champions to carry it through. You need little spark that also nudge you on, inspire you, and also at the same time, you want to see success, you want to see value, you want to see value add, you want to see real tangible value add. Those are all the things that are very, very important. And increasingly, you also see that shareholders and stakeholders are nudging you on. I think the word nudge was said just now. It is very important. It's just like ESG, sustainability. We are all beginning thinking that we have to do something good about it, save the planet and blah, blah, blah. And now we think that we are being nudged on, and now it becomes something quite critical even in our corporate strategy. I guess we hope this whole dynamism of being corporate, inclusive hiring and taking care of the people who have special need will slowly gain momentum, and there is some form of I wouldn't like to use the word pressure actually for everyone to do their part, and that is we can slowly move there. It's a journey. It's inclusive of myself.
Well said, Mr. Liam. And you're right. We want that movement to gain momentum. It's not about pressure, but just collective minds coming together. Anna, I want to come to you now because Mr. Liam talked about unconscious bias, and we have this question here from the audience for you. What are some of the strategies we need to implement to unpack people's unconscious bias? So in the essence of time, perhaps you could just share one key strategy you think would work.
Yes, I think, thank you. I think the first step would be actual self-reflection, and it is kind of keep coming back to oneself and asking yourself, well, because as Mr. Liam said, right, or someone else, sorry, the moment we meet someone, we see someone, we immediately make a decision about that person within first 30 seconds. We already kind of have something in our mind. Based on what? Right, there was this interesting social experiment where it was shown that tall people immediately enforce this idea that they're great leaders.
Yeah.
And so tall people are hired more for key positions. And for example, for women, right, the idea is like, oh, she's a mother, or she has this, and they can't perform in the same way or at the same capacity. So it is, this was my first reflection. And I also shared in my keynote recommendation to look at that website for designed nudges, really how to, that's the how to do in fighting the bias or debiasing ourselves in our organizations.
Thank you so much, Anna. It is about self-reflection. And, here I am standing at 160 cm. What about those tall leadership positions? Thanks, Anna. Elijah, I also want to circle back to you because this is a very real problem. The tension between achieving a corporate social and economic goals. How do we live with this conflict or address it?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's a paradox that we are very interested to resolve. My view is that if we continue to think about social and economic goals as competing and polarizing, companies are often put in the position to choose between social good and profitability. And when times are bad, it's not surprising to learn that most companies will rightly choose profitability over social good. So I think this distinction between social and economic goal limits our ability to find a solution to a conundrum. So one alternative approach is to incorporate both social and economic goals as part of the company's competitive advantage, right? So if we continue our conversation earlier about the disability inclusion policy, so it's not only fulfills a social goal by creating opportunities for disabled individuals to participate meaningfully in our society, but it also fulfills the economic goal because it elevates the quality of human capital among existing employees, which then translate to higher organizational performance. And at the same time, the profile of consumers are also changing, right? So on the whole, consumers are concerned about issues of societal fairness, sustainability, and legacy, and they are willing to pay a corporate social responsibility premium on products and services. And consumers are also becoming more discerning. So they're able to tell the difference between symbolic and substantive social responsibility. So they will not hesitate to call out organize or companies that are engaging in just surface level kind of social responsibility. I mean, 1/3 of our life is spent at work. I mean, do you know that the average person will spend more than 90,000 hours at work over a lifetime? In Singapore, we're notorious for working longer than our counterparts. So I'm sure the number is higher than that. So it is my belief that we start thinking about social and economic goals jointly at the individual level, at the corporation organizational level, and as a nation, we will add greater meaning and significance to our life.
Thank you so much for that. I really like that explanation, Elijah. And just as a wrap right now, I want to ask each of you, what do you think is the one key attribute, or value that an employer, organization, or a leader should have in order to make this sustained move towards corporate social value? Jacinta.
So for me, I think the key thing is sincerity and the willingness to implement what we believe is the right thing to do.
Sincerity. And what is T Ideas doing going forward to create more corporate social value?
For us, it's more like an add-on, is to be sincerely, genuinely being interested in the psychological, physical, emotional health of our elderly staff, because we felt that if we do that, it will eventually cascade down for them to show genuine care for our customers and recommend them the right tea to them.
Thank you, Jacinta. And it ties back to your key value or attribute, right? Sincerity. Anna?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacinta. Anna?
It's impossible to say one. I can't.
One. Okay.
Impossible. Okay. It starts with a commitment to achieve a flourishing world. This means thinking of everything and everyone. And then reflection and learning and having a long-term mindset. Because it is a long-term journey.
Say the second bit again.
Okay, reflection and learning.
Okay.
And commitment to long-term journey, long-term investment.
Okay, I got that. Commitment to achieving long-term investment and reflection and learning. Thank you, Anna. Mr. Liang.
Personally, for me, I'm an architect by profession, so I borrow the words of Mr. Liu Taiker, who is our former chief planner and CEO of HDB. He says that an architect should have an eye of an artist, which is why I was very fond of the VSA, the Inclusive Art Program. And also I was very curious about how Jacinta redesigned the workflow to fit her workforce, the inclusive people whom we have hired. So that part, you must have the mind of a scientist, which is why we engaged Elijah. Having done so much, we wanted to validate what we are doing is correct, and share with the rest of the cohort that indeed it is something of great value. And finally, what Eric Chua said, the heart of a humanist, that is the most important really. We must have the heart for it. We are all bits and pieces here. We dance along, like what Anna said, and we come to the party. Yeah, and we are serious about going into the party and do something good, and at the same time enjoy ourselves, learn something from it, and move on. Wee Wei Ling has been the greatest champion in my group. I take a lot of pride in talking about her, because I think she's seriously our champion in terms of CSR and inclusive hiring, something which I wouldn't have thought of of myself. It's beyond my ability to think that we can handle this. And indeed, she has shown with the whole tenacity that it can be done. So I think all this sums up that I think we have all various parts moving to get this inclusive hiring, this CSRs to CSV movement going in a corporation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liam. Elijah, your one key attribute.
I'll go with 2, but first I will send my CV to Mr. Liam for consideration at the end of this. Just talk about 2 kind of attributes that are malleable, which are kind of important to this work. One is really the ability to quantify the impact of social goal. I feel that as humans, we tend to prioritize goals that are measurable. And that's the reason why we gravitate towards profitability and kind of financial goal. And I think it's important to just think about social goal, not just a feel good. It has to go beyond the affective. It has to be a way to kind of quantify. And how do you do that? Maybe consider collaborating with a social scientist or a business professor. So that's one. The second thing is cognitive flexibility. I really like what Shui mentioned earlier about like hobbies. Hobbies are extremely important. And it's important for the very reason because you can incorporate 2 distinct things and help to enrich your own existing thinking, right? So I feel that we need to kind of move away from, or nudge and slowly pivot away from this binary view of social and economic goal. I really think that we can see them together. And the way to increase your cognitive flexibility, hobbies, do things or do something you already know how to do it, but do it differently. Take a different route, listen to a different music, make yourself uncomfortable, and then you can start to see that the 2 seemingly opposing goals are actually extremely compatible.
Like Shui and her hobbies. Thank you so much, Elijah. I'm hearing quantifying the impact, connective flexibility, having the heart of a humanist, reflection and learning, and having the commitment to achieving a flourishing society, and of course, not forgetting the attribute of sincerity. Big thank you to my wonderful panelists, Elijah, Mr. Wee, Anna, and Jacinta for your wonderful sharing. I think it really requires that huge mindset shift, that reframing that starts really with the smallest of actions, and that can create, a ripple effect throughout the entire organization.